Thanks for holding this hearing. I sat here a long time listening because I'm concerned about the 28,000 deaths in the United States from synthetic opioids like fentanyl. And my colleague made a great point just now that cartel are going to exploit weaknesses or crisis to get their product across. I think they are. I think walls do work. I think they create corridors that our law enforcement can better utilize the resources we give them within those corridors to stop the bad guys from wanting to bring these horrendous drugs into our cities and killing our fellow Americans. Having sat here sat here for several hours listening to all the other questions, one of the benefits or challenges being last is all the groovy questions have been asked. Y'all have been great to answer those questions. I want to give you a chance to tell us what more we can do in Congress. We passed the SUPPORT Act last year, the Support for Patients and Communities Act. I want to see the implementation of that, but what I would like to do is just ask Mr. Overacker first, what can we do in Congress to help keep our law enforcement officers best positioned to continue infiltrating the supply chain? What more can we do?
Well, thank you for that, Congressman. First of all, I'd just like to say that we're very fortunate that Congress has supported us most generously over the last two budgets with respect to our detection capabilities. And so we're grateful for that. We know we have a multi-year effort to improve our scanning capabilities on the southwest border, but also throughout CBP. We're also grateful for the continued support we've received with respect to improving our laboratory capabilities and also appropriations for improving our facilities. That's an important part, particularly what we're doing now to improve the international mail facilities where we process mail with U.S. Postal Service. So that continued support is most helpful for us. And so that's what I would say. Just thank you for the support we've received so far.
Let me ask Mr. Donahue, from the DEA standpoint, what can we do to help you disrupt the distribution process of opioids, and what more can we do?
I think having hearings and meetings like this and keeping it to the forefront is really important, and inviting DEA to these meetings. We bring something specific to the table where we have an extraordinary amount of resources in our overseas offices, which where the drugs come from, the cocaine, the methamphetamine, the heroin, the fentanyl. It all comes from international and other countries. So bringing this to the forefront, I think, is really important for DEA and letting our message get out there. And I think having the youth and other people seeing the damage of the drugs that are coming in from a foreign country, just to damage our cultures and our communities, is really important, not to do it every 6 months, but to do it daily.
I've got my best friend from college is a doctor, and we talked about fentanyl just this week. And we were talking about the smuggling efforts. And as you guys become more and more effective, my concern is the very potent fentanyl could be put into food supplies as part of the smuggling effort in containers and contaminate food supply that ultimately gets in. Not talking about drug users that are looking for that stronger high. I'm talking about fentanyl gets into an area where it contaminates food or liquids that ultimately end up in the digestive systems of just average Americans, and then we have a lot of other innocent deaths. I want to ask Mr. Prince with HSI, you know, as containers are being brought in, I know HSI is doing a great job overseas. Is that a reality that we should think about? Is fentanyl contaminating any other sort of food supply or liquids that are coming into this country?
I think it's an abstract thought that I have that I'll share, but lack of imagination is something that we shouldn't have when it comes to fentanyl, in the same sense that you can think about 9/11 and how that happened. So we should have an imagination about the various ways that fentanyl can be introduced into the United States as we put pressure on organizations. We should be creative. We should continue to leverage tools that we have. We should continue to create new tools and expand our aperture within the cyberspace. And don't forget about as I mentioned earlier, our analog tool sets that allow us to also be effective.
Madam Chairwoman, before I came to this committee, I was on Homeland Security Committee, and I was on the Border and Customs, Border Patrol, Border and Maritime Subcommittee. We went to the ports, and we looked at container security. and we looked at the screening for radioactive devices. We looked at what drug smugglers have done. But fentanyl being put on containers is going to be very difficult for these guys to detect. That's something we ought to consider in future hearings, and with that, I yield back.